Before we get into this, I need to say something first. People on the internet keep saying that giving Tanjiro a quirk from My Hero Academia doesn't work. The systems of power are too different, that goes against the story, that writing that isn't very good, and look, they're not completely wrong to ask the question, but they're asking the wrong question. The real question isn't whether Tanjiro can have half hot and half cold. The real question is what happens to the story of Demon Slayer if he does. I found 3 different theories about how this would turn out, and we're going to look at all of them today from the shortest to the longest. Make sure to stick around for Theory 3 because it even gave me thrills reading it. Moving on to Theory 1, like Todoroki, Tanjiro has the half-cold, half-hot quirk from birth. Ice on one side, fire on the other. But Tanjiro, he doesn't understand it all very well yet. After all, he's just a coal salesman. And his family has always thought it was normal. It was a world with demons, after all. Now, here's the thing. The first thing I need to talk about is the fact that Tanjiro could technically use his ice to get home faster on the night everything goes wrong, but in this theory, that's not the case. Tanjiro stays at the old man's house. The next morning, he gets home and what he finds breaks him. His entire family? Gone! Nezuko's barely breathing. He grabs her and runs. Giyu shows up at that point, and this is where things start to change right away. Tanjiro's scared and running on pure adrenaline. When Giyu raises his sword toward Nezuko, something breaks. Tanjiro reaches out his hand, and ice comes out of nowhere. Giyu gets out of the way, but only just. Giyu stops, checks out this kid, looks at the ice, and doesn't say anything for a long time. He tells Tanjiro to go to Orokodaki. The quirk makes Orokodaki feel strange. He says for sure that it's not a blood demon art. He still teaches Tanjiro water breathing, but he tells him to use ice to move and control himself at first because the fire side isn't stable yet. Tanjiro's the clear winner at final selection. He skates on ice across the ground, stopping demons in the middle of a lunge. Tanjiro doesn't even give the hand demon a dramatic speech this time. Instead, he freezes both his arms and cuts off his head cleanly. Final selection? Finished. No drama. After that, most things go back to how they were. He gets Nezuko back, beats the swamp demon, beats the drum demon, meets Inosuke and Zenitsu. It's clear that Inosuke challenges him right away. Tanjiro holds him still, and Inosuke tries to break free for the next 10 minutes. This only makes Inosuke want to get stronger, and that fits the brand very well. Next is Natagumo Mountain, where Rui's webs are. This is where the first real change happens. Tanjiro uses fire to burn through the webs, using ice to move twice as fast across the mountain, finds Nezuko fast, and when he fights Rui, Giyu doesn't have to step in at the end. He uses sun breathing, mixes it with his fire, and cleanly cuts off Rui's head. Not hurt, not tired, just done. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of Theory 1. No drama, no filler, just clean and simple, but this is only the more optimistic of the theories because the last one will definitely shock you. Moving on to the second theory, this theory continues with the original timeline with the same starting point, same tragedy on the mountain, same desperate run down with Nezuko on his back. But this time, we're focusing more on the quirk itself. Tanjiro has had this power his whole life, but he never really understood it. His family thought it was normal. He hasn't had any training on it. He's been sitting on a loaded gun with the safety on. Giyu looks at the ice. He sends him to Orokodaki, but this time, Orokodaki doesn't just tell him to lean on ice to move. He really looks into the quirk, asks questions, and realizes something very important. The ice and fire sides aren't just 2 different tools. They can work together. So, training looks different here. Orokodaki still teaches water breathing as the basis. However, he also begins encouraging Tanjiro to try mixing temperatures. When something's frozen and then abruptly heated, what happens when you simultaneously launch yourself with a burst of fire while skating on ice? Tanjiro works on this for months, and he begins to create something new. He refers to this method as glacier, which produces enormous amounts of ice that simultaneously cover the ground in every direction, much like Todoroki does at the sports festival. It's still not perfect, however, it's disastrous. Since that's where Theory 2 truly diverges, I'm going straight to Natagumo Mountain. This battle on Rui's Mountain is entirely different. The lower-ranked demon spiderwebs for coordination are instantly disrupted when Tanjiro uses Glacier to cover the entire forest floor in ice. They're unable to move correctly. Their webs become less taut. the entire system collapses. The mother demon's burned through by him, the father demon is rendered immobile by freezing it solid, and it's dealt with later. Quickly locates Nezuko, Rui came next. Tanjiro's fire forces Rui to escalate, so he tries to use his strongest webs right away. Tanjiro, though, is prepared for that. He switches between fire to coerce Rui into committing, ice to confine him, and sun breathing to complete the task. Rui goes down, no Giyu intervention, no near-death moment. The Hashira meeting came next. In actuality, this is more difficult than you might think, because this time the Hashira aren't merely doubting that Nezuko's a demon. Tanjiro's being questioned. What is this power? Is this artwork a blood demon? Is he a demon in secret? They put him to the test. They attest that he's not demonic. However, there is actual tension. Sanemi's still eager to engage in combat. Tanjiro continues to walk ahead of Nezuko. This time, however, Tanjiro warns others by freezing the ground around him when things get hot. Nobody gets up. They have Ubuyashiki's endorsement, and they remain. The Mugen train arc comes next. Since the setup is entirely the same, I'm omitting it here. Enmu's dream trap ensnares them all, and on the train, Tanjiro and Inosuke battle Enmu. Tanjiro uses ice to lessen the impact on the passengers when the train derails. He continues to be stabbed. That portion remains unchanged. Then Akiza shows up, and the part that still hurts is this. The truth is that Tanjiro's genuinely unable to save Rengoku in this situation. He runs the risk of freezing both Akiza and Rengoku if he launches a massive ice attack. Fire's the same. Rengoku's injuries are already severe. Furthermore, Tanjiro simply lacks the strength to keep up with an upper moon at this time. Rengoku still dies. No matter how strong you are, some losses remain the same. This one doesn't either. Tanjiro then resumes his training. He creates a less powerful version of Flash Fire Fist with condensed flames, increased heat, and short, concentrated bursts rather than broad ones. He focuses on controlling his body temperature, which begins to significantly increase his general endurance. Tanjiro is grown significantly stronger by the time the Entertainment District arc arrives, and when Daki arrives, that's crucial. I'm going straight to the one-on-one. Glaciers used by Tanjiro completely stops Daki's attacks, cuts it off clean after trapping her in ice with her head purposefully left out. Gyotaro erupts at that point. Gyotaro is a completely different issue. In an instant, he flattens most of the district. Tanjiro survives the first explosion by throwing up an ice wall. Tengen dives right in. Tanjiro uses all of his strength and pushes himself to the limit until his Demon Slayer mark eventually unlocks, turning the fight into a vicious endurance battle. Together, they defeat Gyotaro. Tanjiro's unable to swallow the sickle this time. Inosuke and Zenitsu are not covered by debris. The damage is still enormous. However, the crew emerges from the experience in far better condition. Marking the end of the second theory, the crew emerges stronger, losses feel smaller, but tragedies don't. But the real question remains. What happens when Tanjiro has been training this power for long enough to actually master it? That brings us to the final and most epic theory of them all. But before I get to that, make sure to leave a like in this video and give the channel a subscribe. I'm always cooking up great what-if scenarios for y'all, so make sure to leave a comment about what you'd want to see next. For the final theory, everything that happens in Theory 2 still happens. All of it. Now, however, we're discussing a Tanjiro who, following the Entertainment District, has received months of additional concentrated training on his quirk. This time, no 3-month coma. He gets up and starts working almost right away. And Phosphor is the first project he works on. You already know what this is if you watched MHA. This method allows you to simultaneously circulate heat and cold throughout your body, preventing burns from fire and freezing from ice while maintaining perfect balance. Todoroki tried to become an expert at it for months. Tanjiro creates a less powerful version of it. Not quite finished yet, but near enough to be significant. Additionally, he creates a brand new move called Hell Spider. His fingertips catch fire, which then spreads like blazing webs. Like Endeavor's method, it's accurate, under control, it's also terrifying up close. Since the Swordsmith Village setup is essentially the same, I'm omitting it. Tanjiro requires a new sword because of everything that has happened to him. His blade is damaged. He gets to know Mitsuri. He uses the Battle Doll for training. He gets to know Genya. When Upper Moon 4 appears, things are different. The emotion clones are divided into 4 groups. Tanjiro doesn't panic this time either. He begins methodically freezing them one by one, using Flash Fire Fist to push them back and Glacier to slow them down. Because they're upper moons, the clones continue to emerge. However, Tanjiro puts so much pressure on them that they become the wind emotion clone much sooner than they ought to. Tanjiro searches the forest for the real body while Genya and Nezuko hold the main clone. He locates it, he destroys it. Nezuko's never caught beneath debris. The Upper Moon 4 is down. We're in Infinity Castle now. Akaza versus Tanjiro and Giyu, and for a while the fight appears to be competitive this time. While Akaza's body's regenerating, Tanjiro continuously burns him with fire. Akaza has the fastest regeneration in the series, even surpassing Kokushibo. Tanjiro, however, continues to apply pressure. He continues to burn. He continues to make the regeneration put in extra hours until he becomes weaker, and Akaza lets him in. Giyu intervenes. Tanjiro uses his father's memories to unlock his selfless state at that precise moment. Together, they complete Akaza. However, Tanjiro still has more energy because Akaza was defeated earlier. He enters the Infinity Castle more thoroughly. He encounters Doma, and this is where Tanjiro has a huge inherent advantage that hardly anyone discusses. Doma uses ice-based methods. Tanjiro can simply burn through them all. He quickly gets closer, and in a fraction of the time, the battle that nearly claimed Kanao and Inosuke's lives is over. Kanao doesn't need to ruin her vision. Inosuke emerges in considerably better shape. Giyu arrives in Kokushibo in the meantime, and Genya and Muichiro are still dead. That remains unchanged. However, Giyu aids in the defeat of Kokushibo. Kokushibo discovers his brother's true nature. The same conclusion. The side fights proceed in the same manner. Kaigaku versus Zenitsu, 7th form. It's finished. Now comes the final epic battle against Muzan. In the original version, early in the battle, Muzan unleashes a huge blast that kills Mitsuri and causes several Hashira to lose limbs. One of the darkest parts of the series was that. Tanjiro's present from the start this time. As soon as Muzan charges that blast, he fires off a huge wall of ice. It absorbs the force. Mitsuri makes it out alive. The Hashira retain their limbs. Lives that were previously unsavable are saved in that one instant. Tanjiro then uses Flash Fire Fist to lock Muzan in place as he begins to slow down and simply keeps burning consistently. The regeneration of Muzan attempts to keep up. However, Tanjiro's fire output is excessive. Tanjiro burns Muzan again each time he regenerates. It's an attrition war, and Muzan loses. Muzan is exhausted by the time the sun rises. Sunlight completes the task. Tanjiro never becomes the Demon King. It's never necessary to bring him back. The intended survivors survive. Mitsuri and Obanai are able to coexist. Giyu holds onto his arm. Shinobu, Genya, and Muichiro continue to perish in the Infinity Castle. Certain things never change. However, in this version, the conflict ends more quickly. There's less damage, and the Kamado family's 3 brothers, Tanjiro, Nezuko by his side, and the memory of all those lost behind them, get to witness a dawn that doesn't mean the end of the world. In actuality, it's just the beginning. So, what do you all think? Which theory's the most realistic one? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.